Good afternoon and happy Wednesday, everyone. My name is Michelle. I'm the outreach coordinator here at Pasadena Humane. And joining me today is Miss Caramel Mims from Pet Porter Pals. How are you today?
Hi, everyone. So good to see you, or not see you, but to be here. And I wish I could see everyone, but good to see you, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so we love working with Pet Porter Pals because, you have so much knowledge to share with us, and I think the information that you do share with us is very invaluable.
Yes,
Oh.
most definitely. Thank you. It is a lot, but I hope that it is helpful to everyone here. And luckily, this will be recorded. So, and then my website will have a ton of information too. So we'll dive in and hopefully cover as much as I can. I will be respectful of everyone's time. I know we only have an hour, so please forgive me if I go through it a little too quickly, but you can always contact me or rewatch the recording and get all the information you need.
All right, so before I let you get started, I'm going to go through some webinar reminders for anybody who is here for the first time with us today. I'm going to show everyone my screen, get this in present mode. So welcome to our webinar. As we've stated, this is an audio-visual presentation, so we cannot see or hear you, although you can see and hear us. With that in mind, use the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen to ask any questions, and when we will address them. If you can, save your questions for the end because it may be answered during this fabulous presentation. And we will be talking today about pet emergency preparedness because oftentimes we have an emergency plan for ourselves and not for our pets. In a couple of months, we will be talking about pet emergencies, the holiday edition, right before we get into Christmas and New Year's. As Caramel said, this webinar is recorded, so you'll get a copy of it tomorrow afternoon. Just in case you miss any information, want to rewatch it and see the beautiful smiles that we're sharing with you today. If you enjoy this presentation as much as we enjoy giving it to you, you can use this link to go ahead and make an impact on the animals in our shelter who aren't lucky enough to have homes. And I will put this in the chat box as well. And without further ado, please take it away, Carmel.
All righty. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Share that. Show window. All right, just trying to share my screen here. Let me move this. Lots of stuff in the way. Okay, here we go. All right. So thank you again, Michelle. I'm so happy to team up with the Pasadena Humane and present this information to you. And thank you to everyone for attending. I think you're awesome pet parents to want to learn how to keep your pet safe during an emergency. So a little bit about me. Again, my name is Carmel Mims. I'm the owner of Pet Porter Pals, and I specialize in providing pet care assistance for seniors. And the list of services I provide to them are listed on the right. If you have any questions or would like more information, please feel free to visit my website. You can call me, email me, however you prefer, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. Oops. Okay, so as we know, disasters come in many forms and can happen without warning. Would you know what to do to protect your pet? So here in California, we definitely have issues of earthquakes. I know the big one is coming at some point. Then we've had fires, we've had mudslides and flooding. All of these can happen at the drop of a hat without any notice. And fortunately, now we do have plenty of resources to include pets in our disaster plans, but unfortunately that was not the case fairly recently. So during Hurricane Katrina in 2005, there was a lack of pet-friendly emergency shelters in areas affected by the hurricane, and emergency plans did not account for pet family members. As a result, 44% of pet parents chose not to evacuate, because they refused to leave their pets behind as instructed by emergency workers, despite remaining in dangerous conditions. So many people said, nope, I'm not leaving my cats, my dogs, because they weren't allowed to bring them to evacuation sites or emergency shelters. So a lot of people stayed behind and risked their lives, and I would have been one of them, most definitely. So as a result, really tragically, an estimated 250,000 dogs and cats were displaced or died as a result of the storm. And I'm sure had they been able to accompany their pet parents to these evacuation sites and shelters, that number most likely would have been significantly lower. So the Federal Pet Evacuation and Transportation Standards Act was passed in 2006, largely because of what was seen as failures to protect pets in Hurricane Katrina. It authorizes FEMA to provide rescue, care, shelter, and essential needs for pet parents and their pets, because they realize that pets are part of the family. It's not just something that someone has just to say, oh yeah, I just have a dog. No, that is their family member, and they're finally being seen and treated as such. So what I'll go through today is what to do to get prepared, what to include in an emergency kit for your pet, what to do during a disaster, and what to do after a disaster. And a lot of the resources that I'll go through, you can find it on my website. I definitely don't want anyone to feel pressure to have to write anything down, especially the pet emergency checklist. So that and additional sites that I'll let you guys know what can be found on my website. But you'll go to the resources page and click on Pet Disaster Preparedness for various resources that we will cover today. So the first thing is getting prepared. So you want to develop.
Can we ask you a question of the audience?
Oh, yes, I forgot. I'm so sorry, Michelle. Yes.
So I want to know how many people have emergency plans for their family, including pets. So, because as you had mentioned that many people, you know, they're just, they do leave their pets behind, and but they are part of the family. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, my dog she's going to be 13 this month, and I couldn't even fathom leaving her behind in an emergency.
No, I wouldn't think twice either, leaving my cat.
So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and close up this poll. But about 2/3 of the audience does not have an emergency plan.
Okay, and that's okay. You are in the right place. Let's see. Trying to get back to my screen. Sorry, let me find it. Okay, here we go. All right, let me minimize that. Okay, so back to developing an emergency plan. I'll cover some guidelines for a successful preparedness plan that will save you precious time when you need it the most. And time is of the essence during an emergency. So you'll want to start by thinking of the possible disasters that can hit your area and how to tailor your plan to that. So as I mentioned before, here in California, we have earthquakes, fires, mudslides, and like flooding. So fortunately, we don't have to deal with hurricanes and blizzards and things of that nature, or tornadoes, but we still have our own fair share that we need to prepare for accordingly. All right. So part of the emergency plan you'll want to include is knowing where your pet might hide when they're stressed or scared, and practice catching them if needed. My cat, for instance, loves to go under the bed to just relax, and she'll go into the closet. So those would be the first two places I would check if something were to happen, or if I know she was scared and would hide. And for those of us who have cats, we know that they can definitely find themselves in really tricky situations too when they're really scared and hide. So be kind of on the lookout of other crazy places, whether it might be behind a fridge or the washing machine. They get into really insane hiding spots, but typically the more common ones, try to know what those places would be. And if you have multiple pets in a multiple person household, it would be helpful to assign each family member to a pet to locate and care for. So instead of having maybe 3 people look for one pet, each person can have their designated pet to go straight away to and make sure that they're accounted for. and decide where you will go and pick a meeting place for your family in case of separation. So you'll also want to have the entire family practice evacuating with your pets so everyone knows what to take, where to find the pets, and where to meet. And this will allow you time to, or an opportunity to kind of work out any kinks in your plan and think, okay, well, we wasted a lot of time trying this method. Let's try this and see if this can help save time or what's more efficient. Because again, time is of the essence. And you'll also want to think of whom you can call outside of your area. And out-of-state contact can be helpful if communications are down in a disaster zone. So anyone of course you can have neighbors and friends that live close to you, but if your community is just down, like it would be difficult to reach them. So having someone outside of that area can be helpful. And you'll want to let that person know your disaster plan and where your family meeting place is should you be evacuated, so you can at least have a point of contact if needed. And the best emergency plans include many people and systems that can back each other up. This includes family, friends, neighbors, your veterinarian, and a pet sitter. So tying into the buddy, or having a network that ties into having a buddy system implemented. So you want to designate a trusted family member, neighbor, friend, pet sitter to assist with evacuation if you aren't home, if you're at work or if you're out of town, when disaster strikes, because again, we do not know when that can happen. Or if you need assistance with evacuating your pets while you're at home. So like if it's a senior who, if they have trouble catching their cat and putting it into a carrier or whatever the case may be, even if they are home, if they just need assistance, it's really important for someone in that situation to have someone that they can call to assist them so that they and their pet can get out quickly. And it's important for the people in your buddy system that they're comfortable with your pet and that your pet is comfortable with them. It probably would not help if it was someone who the pet just did not like, because the likelihood of them going to the person, especially during a stressful situation, is pretty low. So someone that your pet likes, that has a good relationship, would be helpful. And provide them with a key to your home. So again, someone that you trust. Trust is key. So someone that can have a key to your home. If you have an alarm code, a gate code, that's information they're going to need on hand and not have to try and reach you in case the phone lines are down. They should have it on hand so they can get to your pet and show them where your pet is likely to be, including those hiding places and how to catch them, which is what you have learned while planning your emergency plan. So you know what you can relay to your buddy in your buddy system, where the pet's carrier is if they need one, and where the emergency kits are located. So then you'll also want to designate a specific location to meet. So if you are at work and if you have a neighbor or someone come to get your pet, you guys know already ahead of time where the location is to meet. Okay, so to identify shelter during an evacuation, I begged everyone to please plan to take your pets with you if you have to evacuate. If it's not safe for you, it's not safe for them. And tying back to Hurricane Katrina, a lot of people who did end up leaving their pets, they had no idea how long that they would actually be out of their home. They thought maybe a few days. So some pet parents did leave out plenty of water and some food for their pets, thinking that they would be back in a matter of days. But unfortunately, it ended up being a matter of weeks. Many of the pets starved and they tragically passed away. Some ended up getting out, and it was just tragic all around. So that's why I'm just begging everyone to please take your pets, now that we can, please take your pets with you during an evacuation, because you more than likely will have some place to go. Be pet-friendly hotels or Airbnb, animal shelters, boarding facilities, vets, friends. And with American Red Cross shelters, they unfortunately do not allow pets, but it's due to health and safety concerns. They only will allow service animals, but they should have resources on where you can go. So if you were to take your family and your pets to a Red Cross shelter, unless it's a service animal, they would turn you away, or they would at least refer you to a place where you can take your pet. So they would turn your pet away, not you, but mostly your pet. And at least here in the San Gabriel Valley, we do have our chapter is located in Arcadia, so it's very close. If you wanted to contact them and kind of see what their protocol is on an emergency. So this list of websites. This is located on my website on the resources page I was telling you about earlier, and it's a list of pet-friendly hotels, websites, and animal shelter resources. And there are so many, which is great. I love seeing how many pet-friendly accommodations there are available. So this would be really helpful to kind of just peruse through and see which shelters, but also hotels are in your area. And so when planning, try not to keep your places you would go where it's too much of a small service area or a small area in terms of maybe somewhere that's like 3 miles away or 5 miles. Look for somewhere that's 20 miles out, because we don't know how far, if there's an emergency, just how far the disaster zone will go out. So we want to make sure we at least can travel a distance if needed. So you'll want to know kind of how far out some pet-friendly hotels are. And when planning to go to a pet-friendly hotel, be prepared for possible additional pet fees. Some might be free, some might charge $50 a pet, who knows, but you'll want to make sure you have the funds available to cover that if needed. And you'll want to find out about restrictions on the amount, size, weight, and species of pets ahead of time. They might not allow 9 cats and 3 Great Danes, or iguanas or snakes, but it's good to know ahead of time what you can bring and how many. And if you have multiple pets, you may have to house them separately. Again, if you have 9 cats, you might not be able to bring all 9 cats. Maybe you can bring 4 to this hotel and the remaining 5 to a different one. So it's important to have enough carriers or crates for each pet. And the crates and carriers might actually be required if you're leaving your pet unattended in the hotel room, because I'm sure the hotel staff would not want to come to the room and see everything destroyed or have the pet go potty on the floor and on the bed. So make sure you do have that if you're going to the appropriate carriers and crates if you're going to consider going to a pet-friendly hotel. And if you're going to shelter in place, you'll want to make sure, meaning if you're going to be at home during an emergency, you're going to want to make sure that you choose the right room and that it is as pet-friendly as possible in the following ways. So one is no or at least few windows and clear flying debris. Remove any toxic chemicals or plants. Close off small areas where frightened cats could get stuck, like I mentioned earlier, like beneath heavy furniture. And in the event of flooding, go to the highest location in your home or to a room that has access to counters or high shelves where your pet can take shelter. And obtaining and updating identification is very important. So collars and tags, you want to make sure that the collars and tags for cats and dogs, that they're sturdy, that they're not falling apart. So if you see like, yeah, we haven't bought a new collar in years, this one's on this last little strand, buy a new one. Make sure the tags are updated with your current information. If you have your address on there, make sure it's the current address and phone numbers. Otherwise, it might not really do you any good to have old information if that's the only way someone can contact you if you lose your pet. But I highly encourage everyone to microchip their pets, as it's a more permanent form of identification. Collars and tags can become damaged or fall off, and you definitely want to be able to have a higher chance of being reunited with your pets, and microchips can help do that. But again, for the microchip, please make sure that the information associated with that is up to date. And include an additional contact too, not just yourself. If you have a family member or a friend, even someone out of the area that can serve as an additional contact, add them on if possible. The more the better. And it's important to stay current on vaccinations. So rabies we're legally supposed to, but we want to do for dogs, Bordetella, the DHPP, and now we have this outbreak of canine influenza, leptospirosis. So if you're going to, especially in the event of an emergency, if you're going to take your pet to a kennel or somewhere where there will be other pets, you want to make sure that your pet is safe and protected against possible viruses that could make them sick or potentially pass away. But before you just jump and do that, talk to your vet, because some pets, depending on their health, some vaccinations might not be good for them to take. So always just talk to your vet and ask them what would they recommend to have your pets updated on in terms of vaccinations. And then you want to make sure that they have their heartworm, flea, and tick preventatives too. Oh, the dreaded carrier. Most cats hate this. When I have to get cats in, it can definitely be a struggle. So making it especially a cat's friend is not easy, but it's important. So it's important that collapsible cages, crates, or carriers, as I mentioned before, should be available for each pet for transportation and housing purposes. And it's even more important that they be large enough for them to comfortably stand, lay down, and turn around. I've seen carriers that are just so tiny, the poor cat can barely turn around, and that's just not comfortable. It needs to be able to freely kind of stretch and move around. As for dogs too, for smaller dogs. So a way that we can try and make the carrier not such a horrible place for pets is to familiarize it with or create a positive association with it by using toys that your pet likes, treats, comfortable bedding that they also enjoy inside for them to think, hey, I guess this thing isn't quite so bad. Although pets are very clever, they might know what we're trying to do, but it's worth a shot. It can also, so doing this can make it easier for you, someone in your buddy system, or rescuers to place your pet inside when an emergency occurs and you must leave quickly. So it's worth a shot getting those high value treats, those fun toys that they may like, and hopefully it'll work because they need to get in their carriers quickly. So for dogs, if you have a crate, that's the larger crate that not just like a regular carrier, but it's a large wire crate. If you have that for your dog, it should be large enough for it to hold 2 dishes for food and water, and still be spacious enough for them to stand, turn around, and lay down comfortably. So this will be ideal to have if you're staying in a pet-friendly hotel or if you're at an evacuation site that allows pets. That way your pet is safe and secure from other pets, other people. So that it has its own little, and you can cover it with a blanket, so it has like its own little enclosure. So this will be a really great item to have in your emergency kit. But please remember to remove their collars before leaving them in the wire crates, because they can get entangled in there and strangled, and it's really horrific. So make sure you take them off. You can write a reminder, leave it on the crate, maybe use zip ties or something so that people know whenever leaving the dog or cat in there, take off the collars. And same for cats. You can I have a wire crate for my cat, and it's large enough to hold her litter box, 2 dishes for food and water, and it's large enough for her to move around and be comfortable in the event I need to take her to, again, a hotel or an evacuation site, so she's secure. She's not roaming around. And again, please remove the collars if your cat wears a collar, so they are safe from strangling themselves accidentally. Okay, so the following list I'm going to provide for the pet emergency kits, it is quite a bit, so please don't feel obligated to have to write this stuff down. It is available on my website on the resources page. I have checklists for dogs, cats, small animals, birds, and fish. So I will go through it kind of a little quickly just for sake of time, but just want to give you guys a heads up. So for food and water, that's of course the first thing that we think of when creating an emergency kit is food and water. And again, we never really know how long we're going to be in an emergency situation, whether we're at home sheltering in place or if we've been evacuated. So it's safe to do 2 weeks just to be on the safe side of having enough food, whether that be dry food, canned food, pelleted food, seeds for your small animals and birds, plenty of water, and treats. So if you have frozen food, make sure if your pet has like frozen or refrigerated food, make sure you have coolers and ice packs for that, and all the essential tools for the canned food, the proper containers to keep things fresh, and of course food and water bowls. So you want to keep everything in sturdy waterproof containers so it can be carried easily, and then keep them in an accessible location. It will do you no good to have these tucked away far in the corner in your garage behind piles of stuff, or even below a bunch of piles of things. It's because you need to get to it quickly. So somewhere that you can get to it very quickly and transport it to your car. And it's important to remember to rotate out. Yes.
I was gonna say, can we ask the audience what they think about food rotation?
Yes,
So,
of course.
How often should you rotate the food? Every 3 months, every 6 months, once a year, or it's not important? Okay, so let's see. I'm going to keep it open for about 3 more seconds. And I will say about 2/3 of the audience again has said every 6 months. So what would you recommend?
I mean, they're right. That is correct. I've read that for water, it's good to do that every 6 months, and for food, just to maintain the freshness, every 3 months. But just keep an eye on the expiration date, because if it's canned food, that's fine. You know, to wait until the kind of closer to the expiration date. Maybe for not rotate that as often, but more so for the dry food, if you have it like in a plastic, like a Ziploc bag or a container, that's something you want to rotate a bit more often, like every 3 months. But the audience is correct for the water, so I will still give points for that.
All right. So, and what do you mean by rotate the food?
So what I do, actually, I have okay. So what you can do, you can put some, like however many servings you want to give, how many scoops you want to put into a Ziploc bag of dry, let's say dry food, if you feed your pet dry food. So then you have that in your emergency kit, but then you know, okay, 3 months have gone. Let me use this as dry food to feed my pet as normal, you know, for their breakfast and dinner. But then you replace that with fresh dry food, if that makes sense. So then you get a new Ziploc bag and put from a new bag of food, perhaps put fresh dry food. So you just want to make sure it's, or if you can get a smaller version of the dry food, because I have, for me, for my cat, I have a brand new bag. It's a small version of her typical dry food that I keep in her emergency kit. So I just rotate that out. So as soon as I say, okay, let me get a new bag of food, I just take out the old bag from her kit, use that to feed her breakfast and dinner, and then I've already ordered from Chewy a new bag of dry food. So I hope that makes sense.
All
But
right,
that's my method.
Yeah, no, that does make sense.
But
Thank you so much for clarifying.
okay. Sure. Okay, onto medication. So for pets who take medication, it's important to have a copy of their prescriptions for the medication and or any specialty food. So as I mentioned, with my cat, she has kidney disease. So she's on a specialty food prescription diet that I need to have a prescription for. And I have a copy of that. It's on my phone just in case I run out of food and I need to get some more. But for everything else, it's really important in terms of other medications. It's important to have, I'd say, a month's worth just to be on the safe side in case pharmacies are down or you just can't get more medication for whatever reason. And that can include vitamins, supplements, flea and tick treatments as well. And you'll want to include whatever you use to administer that medication to your pets, include those as well. So pill guns, if you have syringes or needles for sub-Q fluids or insulin, if you need a pill cutter, get everything, duplicate pretty much everything that you use and just put that in your kit. That way, if you need to leave, your mind's going to be all over the place. You won't be able to focus. Oh, I need to get the pill cutter. Oh, I need to get the pill gun. It's going to be too stressful. So to just having everything already located in your kit will give you peace of mind knowing, oh, it's all there. I'm good. And for medication requiring refrigeration, such as insulin, you want to have a cooler and chemical ice packs because those will need to be kept cold. And then hopefully wherever you go, you can have access to a refrigerator. And you'll want to have a sturdy plastic container to safely dispose of syringes and needles. So for those pets that have received sub-Q fluids or insulin, you'll want to have somewhere to put those needles and such. And especially with medications, you want to be really careful with monitoring that expiration date too. So mark your calendar, whether that be a tangible calendar or on your phone, reminders, so you can know, okay, let me again, so rotating it out too. If you see, okay, this medication is kind of getting close, let me use it, because you don't want that medication to expire. And then keep all medications in a waterproof container as well. Okay, for the first aid kit, a lot of these items can be found in our homes just from stuff that we have for our own emergency kit or like first aid kit. So But whatever you don't have, you can find a CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens, really nothing that's too complicating. Or if you want, you can go online and find specialty like pet first or dog first aid kit or cat first aid kit. But really, it's what we use. And it's important to replace all items after each use and update it twice a year. Just keep track of the expiration dates of some of the medications and stuff. And you'll want to customize your pet first aid kit to their species and their needs. So what might go in a first aid kit for a dog wouldn't necessarily go into a first aid kit for a rabbit. So it's helpful to talk to your vet too to see, okay, what would you recommend that I put in my kit for my particular pet? And kind of segueing, it's helpful to have a pet first aid kit, but it's even more helpful to know how to use it. So there are pet first aid courses offered by the Red Cross, Pet Tech, Pro Pet Hero, Walks and Wags Pet First Aid, and the American Veterinary Medical Association. They provide information, really helpful information. And all of these sites and phone numbers are available on my website on the resources page, just so you can know you don't have to write these down. So for the pet poison hotlines, this information is helpful to have not only in your phone, just in general, because we don't know when we might need to call them, but it's good to have it in your emergency kit as well. Just maybe have it written down just in case you don't have access, you don't have your phone. If it dies or you lose your phone, you at least still have the phone numbers available. You can use someone else's phone. So this is really helpful to better help our pets. So back to our emergency kits. Other stuff that we definitely need, waste supplies, so litter box, cage bedding for small animals, poop bags, diapers, potty pads, whatever your pet uses, include that and a good amount of it into your emergency kit. And safety supplies, an extra collar, an extra tag, just in case, again, if your dog or cat's collar falls off, becomes damaged, you have a backup. And you want a sturdy leash and a harness. Carriers, travel cages for all types of pets, whatever you can transport them with, such as a pillowcase. If you have a snake, you want to have that as well. A large towel for restraint. Cats can definitely be a little temperamental if they're stressed. So if you need to toss a big towel over them to gather them up and get them in the carrier, by all means, I recommend it be a pretty thick towel, nothing too thin, because those nails and teeth can go through easily. Muzzles, sturdy gloves, and dog booties if they're used to them, to help protect their paws on hot gravel, or if there's broken glass or whatever the terrain. If it's dangerous, you want to protect their paws. And if your dog already wears these little booties, have an extra pair in your kit. Sanitation supplies. We typically probably have a lot of this at home already. Fortunately, we can still find hand sanitizer now. Last year was a different story, as well as disinfectant and disposable gloves. So have those items, comfort items to keep your pets comfortable when they're either sheltering in place or if they have to go somewhere like a boarding facility. So whatever you use, toys, blankets and bedding, clothing with your scent, that's really important. Whatever you use to keep your pet comfortable, or whatever you think they would like, include that in your kit. And as far as the toys and blankets, it would be great if there was stuff that they've used that has their scent on it, maybe not like brand spanking new toys or bedding, something with their scent, because that definitely brings a sense of familiarity too, like, oh, this is mine, okay, I feel a little more comfortable. Paperwork. Oh goodness, it's a lot, I know, but it's important for identification purposes, in case your pet gets separated from you, or just to prove that this is my pet. So don't try and give it away to someone else. Here's the proof. There's photos. So you want to get registration information, adoption papers, proof of purchase, photos of you and your pet, preferably, a description of your pet, owner and emergency contact information, microchip number. If you need to board your pet, it's really helpful to have all instructions available to give to the staff there, so they can replicate the pet's routines as much as possible. It won't be perfect. It won't be how mommy does things or how daddy does things, but it'll be to the best of their ability if given as much information as possible. So feeding schedules, any medications they take, of course, include the dosage, and if it's on a time schedule, like for insulin. Make sure they know what times the pets are typically receive medications. Any allergies, behavioral problems, anything that you feel someone needs to know when taking care of your pet, include that. And pet insurance information, copies of vaccination records, medical records, and a rabies certificate, because the boarding places might need to see the rabies certificate, proof of that. So keep it on, maybe a copy of it in your kit and on your phone. I have pictures of all my cat's documents in my phone, just in case something were to happen to the actual documents. So good to have a backup. Okay, so these are some additional supplies that we can review quickly for birds, small animals, reptiles, and fish. Since there are such varied needs for different species of animals, you should be familiar with your particular pet species to know which items are needed. So you want to consult with your veterinarian to discuss the appropriate supplies for your pet and customize the kit to meet their needs. So again, what an emergency kit for a bird or parrot will not be the same as that for like a turtle or a mouse. So you'll want to customize it. And so of course, it'll cover everything that we've talked about thus far. So food, medication, comfort supplies, sanitation, all of those things, and then some. So for birds, these are a few of the items you'll want to include in your kit for them. And for small animals, here are some things for them. Sorry, I'm just looking at the clock. Want to make sure I don't run out of time. So again, these lists are on my website on the resources page. So if you want to take a closer look, please feel free to visit the site and do that. A lot for fish. I would, initially you would think, oh, just put it in a cup or a bowl and some water and that's fine. But it can be a lot depending on if it's salt water or fresh water. So talk to an exotic vet if you need to and really get familiar with what you might need to take for your small animals. Okay, what to do during a disaster. Oh, Michelle, was there a question that did you, I might have already shown it, but did you want to go through that question? Sorry about that, got ahead of myself.
When disaster strikes, when should you evacuate? Immediately, when I'm told, or I don't want to leave my house? I know there's a lot of people initially have that feeling of, I don't want to leave my house, but it's all for safety. Right, so we've got kind of split answers here, Carmel. So half says immediately and half says when I'm told.
Okay. Well, I suggest to evacuate early and not to wait for a mandatory order, although it seems like, no, I'll just wait. But the reason why I suggest evacuating early is because you don't want to wait until conditions become severe, and it'll keep everyone safer and make the process less stressful. So if everyone were to evacuate at the same time, oh, that's going to be even more chaotic than trying to evacuate early. And then this would allow you to confirm availability of space in pet-friendly hotels and evacuation sites. It just makes it a little bit less stressful and chaotic. So that's my opinion. But what I suggest too is to also just place all small pets, including cats and small dogs, in their carriers, secure your dogs on the leashes, load everyone up, load all your stuff into your vehicle. Then you contact your prearranged pet-friendly evacuation site that you've already listed in your plan, and make sure that there's space, and then you just head on out. And I highly suggest you keep your pets, for those that are in carriers, keep them in their carriers, please, while in the vehicle. I know it's tempting if they're crying and meowing and sounding so pitiful and scared that you want to take them out and hold them and soothe them. Please just keep them in the carrier. That'll keep it less stressful for them and for you. And you can just cover their carrier with a blanket or a sheet just to kind of block the visual stimulation, and that will help calm them down a bit. But a loose cat in the car during a crazy time is not a good time for anyone. Oops. So if you shelter in place instead, you'll want to go to the safe room in your home selected during emergency planning. again, keep all the dogs in leashes and small pets in carriers to ensure their location and safety. Make sure everyone has their ID tag on and the emergency kits nearby. Notify your emergency contacts where you will be, that you'll be at home, and then let them know where in your home you will be as far as the location of your safe room, just so someone knows where you are. You always want someone to know. And you want to keep yourself, so a way to keep yourself and your pets healthy is because there can be a transmission of diseases during natural disasters that can be passed from pets to people. So you want to wash your hands frequently, and always after touching your pets, the pet food, pet supplies, and after cleaning up their waste. Practice safe handling of your pet, because they might behave differently during a stressful situation. They might act unlike themselves. Maybe they get a little snappy. If they're in pain, they might try to snap and bite. They're not trying to be mean. They just are scared. They might be in pain. So just be careful with that. You don't want to get bitten or scratched. And please, again, keep pets caged or on the leash for their own safety, as well as that of other people and pets, especially if you're in an evacuation site, like not the Red Cross, but an evacuation shelter that's pet friendly. Keep your pets secure in a carrier, in a crate. Disinfect everything. That is very important. Make sure there's nothing that could be passed to anyone. Okay, so what to do after a disaster. So what you'll want to do is survey the area inside and outside of your home. Identify any sharp objects, dangerous materials, spilled chemicals, anything that could be a hazard to your pet's well-being. And be especially aware of hazards at their nose and paw level. So just like when you have a 2-year-old, what can that 2-year-old, meaning a child, what can that child reach? What do I need to do to childproof my home? So just kind of take on that mindset. What can my pet get into that they don't need to at this time? And check your pet for injury. Examine your pets closely for injury or chemical exposure, and contact your veterinarian immediately if you observe signs of illness or injury. And this is helpful. This ties back into taking the pet first aid courses. That can help you identify and try and help your pet in the meantime before getting them to a vet, because the things you learn at the pet first aid courses shouldn't be a substitute for veterinary care, but more so just what can I do now to help them out while taking them to the vet, to at least help buy some time and increase the chance of saving the pet's life. I know I've said this a million times. Please keep your pet safely secured. When they're scared, they can run, they can bolt. You don't want that. So dogs, again, should be kept on leashes. Small animals, including cats, in their carriers until they are calm and in an enclosed room. Do not let them roam around outside unsupervised or unrestrained. And as I mentioned before, they may have changes in behavior. They might be upset, disoriented, and exhibit uncharacteristic behaviors due to stress. But please be patient with them. I know for us, we would be very stressed out. So imagine how it would be for them when they really don't know what's going on. So just give them a little grace and know that this is not going to be a permanent type of situation. If they maybe are having potty issues, if they're going to the bathroom where they don't normally go, it's just stress. But if there is something that you notice that's really just concerning, contact your vet. So one thing we can do to help our pets is keep them comfortable. Allow them to have plenty of uninterrupted sleep to recover from the trauma and stress that they've experienced. Give them as much calm and normalcy as you can. Follow familiar rituals whenever possible. So if you usually play with your cat or brush your dog, if that's something you guys do together, that's a fun activity, start bringing that back into the day, and provide those comfort supplies that's in the kit that bring a sense of home. So the toys, the blankets, clothing with your scent, all of those things can definitely make your pet feel better. But ultimately, the biggest source of comfort, of course, would be us to them, as I'm sure they would be a big source of comfort for us too, especially during such a stressful time. If you've lost your pet, notify the microchip company if your pet is microchipped. Pay daily visits to local shelters, animal control facilities, vet offices, kennels. Post lost pet notices, notify animal care, veterinarians, neighbors. Just spread the word and utilize social media. I see it all the time when someone has lost their pet. They use Facebook, you can use Instagram, Nextdoor. I see that a lot on Nextdoor as well. So utilize those avenues of spreading the word. And I'm sure people will really come together to help you. And also utilize petfbi.org. You can search for lost pets or even report pets that you found. And I'm sure that their parents would be very appreciative for you to take that extra step to help reunite them. So here are a list of additional helpful resources. It covers a lot of the information I've covered. So feel free to visit these sites. This is available on my website as well on the resources page, all of these links. Tons of helpful information. So of course, I'm sure you would all agree, people and pets are better together. By preparing for the worst, you can better ensure that you and your pet stay together no matter what happens. And before we end, I love to share this little story. It's just really saying your plan doesn't have to be perfect to work. So when your sister-in-law has to evacuate her pony from Santa Rosa, but no transport is available, you do what you have to do. She did what she had to do and got him into the backseat of her Honda Accord with carrots and love. And that was from Cindy during the Santa Rosa fires. That was a few years ago. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, I share this story because I know that all of this information I present is like, oh my gosh, that's a lot, where it can be overwhelming, I'm sure, but I really want to encourage people to not think like, oh my gosh, this is a lot, what am I going to do? And it has to be, everything has to line up perfectly. It won't. Things typically will not line up perfectly, and it's okay. So I hope that you don't have any pressure on yourself to come up with this perfect, elaborate plan. Just do the best you can. Plan as much as you can. And there are people that will help. I've seen that last year during COVID and during natural disasters. People will come together to help you. Strangers will come to help you too. So just plan, do what you can, plan as much as you can. No plan will be perfect. So I just hope no one puts that pressure on themselves. And if you have to do what this woman here had to do by bringing her, I'm sure she didn't plan on bringing her pony into the backseat of her Honda, but it worked. That's the thing, it worked. So whatever you have to do, as long as you get your pets to safety, whether that be in the house or out and about somewhere, just as long as you're safe and they're safe, they have what they need, you have what you need, that's all that matters. And I was telling Michelle earlier, as far as the food and whether, as far as the expiration date and how long to keep it, I said, well, if the food expires a little bit, as long as I just want the pets to have food. It doesn't have to be like right on the date where nope, it has to be fresh as everything. No, as long as a pet has food that they can eat, that's really at the end of the day what matters to me. So your plan does not have to be perfect to work. And with that, I just thank everyone so much for attending. And I hope you were able to get something out of all of this. I know it was a lot, but if you have any, I know we'll address some questions now, but if anything comes to mind later on today or at any other point, please feel free to contact me, and we will get you all sorted out.
Yeah, wow, that was a lot of great information.
Thank
and
you.
I
I know it's a
know,
lot.
yeah, I know there's wonderful resources on your website. There's also resources on Pasadena Humane, and for anyone that's in our service areas, we are an evacuation site. So if you do have to leave your home and you can't take your pets to wherever it is that you're staying, we can provide temporary boarding in our facility. And I know there's a lot of other great boarding facilities around the area. We've worked closely with Wonder Dog Ranch in Monrovia, and they are a great resource to have. So a couple of questions. Oh, okay. Can we post the website again? Yes, I will go ahead and put the website in the chat box as well for Pet Porter Pals, so you can kind of see what Carmel has on, on her website.
Yeah, it was on the last slide. Sorry about that. As a reminder, okay. But yes, if you want to.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and post it in the chat box for everybody to see. And there was a lot of great information, and when we do have to evacuate our homes, it is very stressful for us, and we understand what's happening, so it can be very stressful for our pets, but so very important, I think, is that we have to be aware of the situation and what's going on at the time, and make sure that that emergency personnel can get to where they need to get to when they need to get to, because it's their job to keep us safe as well.
Yeah.
I know something that I have, on my window is that what kind of pets that I have in my house in case, like, you were talking about having that buddy system. What if something does happen to you?
Yeah. No, that's
So
very true. And keep those, and it's important if you use those stickers to keep them updated. So if it says that you have 4 dogs, but let's say 2 of them passed away and you only have 2, get a new sticker and update it so that someone isn't coming in there looking for 4 dogs and when there's really only 2, or so keep that, and keep your contact information updated. So, and if you don't have pets, remove it.
Yeah, it's so very important to keep that contact information up to date with the microchips, because we see it so often in the shelter that people will come in, animals will come in, and the microchip is out of date or there's no information on there at all. So I know that, when I moved my home, that was one of the first things that I did, was to make sure that in case my dog got out, because we weren't anywhere close to where we used to live, and but we have, and you were talking about the vaccine, so I want to invite everyone. We've actually done a webinar on the science behind vaccines and what ones you need and why you need them. So, I invite everybody to visit our YouTube channel, which is just Pasadena Humane, when you look on YouTube, and see all of our past webinars, because we've addressed the microchips and we've addressed all of the different types of vaccines. We've actually addressed some pet emergencies as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, you guys are awesome. Absolutely. I've adopted 2 cats from you. I love Pasadena Humane and just how you give back to the community, and it's amazing. So thank you for all that you do.
Oh, thank you. And I want to say I really did love your tips on trying to acclimate your animals to their, enclosures in case you have to use them.
I hope it works.
We got a backpack for our cat, and we would just put it on the floor next to his bed with one of his toys in it. And before we started using it, before we shoved him in and carried him around, and that way he could get a little more acclimated to it. And that's actually a place that he sees the backpack and he's like, "Whoo, I'm going outside now." And
that's great.
He gets,
because you don't take him to the vet in that backpack though, right? So he doesn't.
No.
I'm sure that.
Yes.
Because the carrier, like, oh no, not that torture chamber.
Yeah, no, there really is no negative connotation with it, but I'll tell you, he does walk on a leash as well. So we can get him. We can get him to the. Yeah, we can get him to the car without the backpack.
That's so neat.
So I'm, this is a time for the audience to ask us questions. I know we've addressed a few questions already throughout the time, but I want to see if there's anything else out there that is at the top of anyone's mind that we can answer before we sign off for the afternoon.
I have a question, Michelle. Because you had mentioned, which I was aware that Pasadena Humane can serve as a shelter for pets during an emergency. Do you guys require updated rabies vaccination or any kind of vaccination records, and just show proof of that?
Yeah, so rabies is a required vaccine to have your pets licensed, and all of our services do require dogs to be licensed. We do highly recommend it. However, if animals are not up to date, because we have veterinary staff at the organization, we can provide those vaccines to make sure that they are up to date, because we don't want them to come into the shelter, get something, and then release them back to their homes. And, you know, we were talking about the safety of humans and pets, you know, with getting everyone sick. So we'll make sure that if they come in and they don't have they're not up to date on their vaccines, we will make sure that they leave up to date on their vaccines. So, and that's, you know, something else. We do have a vaccine clinic on site, and for the month of October, it's taking place on Wednesdays, and our appointments are released on the last Sunday of the month. And you can come in, and it's honestly a fantastic deal, because it's $20 or $25, and it doesn't matter what kind of vaccines you get. So if you get rabies, bordetella, DHPP, and a microchip, it's still going to be one price.
Wow.
So, yeah,
that's
which is really great. So I encourage anyone, if you know your animals need to be brought up to date with their shots, then we're the place to be. Make your appointment today. Yeah, so so we have a question about the flu vaccine. So that the flu vaccine and lepto are not vaccines that we actually give at Pasadena Humane. That's something you would need to get from your vet, but it's also not something we require for emergency boarding in our shelter. So. All right, and just as a reminder to everyone too, we're going to be talking about pet emergencies in December. If you look in the handout section, there is a checklist on your pet emergencies and what you need to do. So Carmela, I want to thank you so much for joining us again. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you.
Thank you. So good to see you. It's been a year.
And I'm sure. Yeah, that we will be, there's actually chatter about us holding the Pet Disaster Preparedness Workshop in person for 2022. So I will keep you and everyone in our audience posted as we get closer to that.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thanks for joining me today. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.